Hello, welcome to Thirsty Thursdays with a Therapist. Thanks for joining me, Jaleisha Gatling, licensed marriage family therapist here in New York City, working with people to help them unpack the baggage that gets in between their relationships. Today on Thirsty Thursdays with a Therapist, where we quench the thirst in your relationship, we are talking about the 5 love languages. The 5 love languages originated from Dr. Gary Chapman. It's 20 plus years old, and if you're not familiar with it, if you haven't come across this concept, check it out, Google it, get the book. You can take a quiz online with your partner. There's so much information out there on it, but it's incredibly helpful to helping you and your partner understand one another and the language that you speak when it comes to love. So, what is the 5 love languages? What are the 5 love languages when I say that? The 5 love languages basically encompass 5 different ways that we give and receive love. And this is really, really important because oftentimes you and your partner speak very different languages when it comes to love. Much like so many other things, we're drawn to one another. Opposites attract with different characteristics and things. And so the 5 love languages really is no different. Very rarely will you find that a couple has the same love language as their primary language. And so let me just dive into what those 5 are. The 5 love languages, let's begin with quality time. Quality time essentially is what it sounds like. Quality time, if that's your primary love language, that means that you really thrive and feel those warm, fuzzy feelings upon having quality time above how you would feel with the other 4 languages. And so essentially, all of these elements are really, really important to a relationship. And no one has one sole primary language or one sole language altogether. But as I'm speaking about these, I'm speaking about your primary one, the one that has more weight, the one that has more meaning. So there's quality time, there's physical touch, which encompasses gestures, affections, any sort of touch. That is what brings you comfort, support. That's that when your partner touches you, if that's your primary love language, essentially they are communicating that they love and they see you and they appreciate you, and that has a lot of meaning for you. So we've got quality time, touch. There is words of affirmation, which is pretty much what it sounds like. Having those verbal affirmations has great significance for you. And if that's not happening, you may feel as if your partner is not showing you that love and appreciating you. You need that verbal, whereas someone else's primary love language might be touch, and so the verbal piece is still very much appreciated, but it doesn't have the same weight and meaning as touch would. So what's number 4? We've got acts of service. Acts of service is simply doing deeds for your partner, selfless acts for your partner. If that is your primary love language, that means that you really appreciate when your partner does something that helps you out, that takes the load off. And that could look very different person to person. And so if you find that that is where you are, it's good to kind of dig a bit deeper and get specific about what that could look like for you. For one person, that might be you taking the trash out or changing the oil in the car. For someone else, that might be you watching the kids for 8 hours and I can go off and do my thing. It's taking the load off. It's doing a selfless act or deed. And again, that could go beyond anything that I just mentioned, but those are just some things that came to mind. Last one is gifts. So physical, tangible gifts. It doesn't have to be a huge gift. It doesn't have to be anything extraordinary, but for some people, a gift is a token of love or appreciation, and that speaks volumes. And so once you start to learn and identify what your primary love language is, you might find that you tend to do that, or you tend to communicate that to your partner. We tend to show our love through the language that we primarily speak. But sometimes that can cause a head or just miscommunication because we are speaking to our partner what we think says, hey, I love you, I'm here for you, I am all about you, and our partner is looking for a different language, literally. And you know, it's funny, I got caught in this YouTube spiral not too long ago. I was watching 90 Day Fiance, and I don't know if any of you are familiar with it, but one of the women was flying over for the first time to meet her future fiance for the first time after talking online and falling in love via the internet. And she got to the airport. He picks her up, and the first thing she says is, "You didn't bring me flowers? You didn't bring me flowers?" And she was so distraught over it. And he was like, "What? Like, this is our first time meeting, and that's, you know, that's one of the first things that you say to me." And I in no way am saying that I approve of that, or that I think that that is okay. But the one thing that did come to mind when I saw that was, ooh, I wonder if her love language is gifts, because he showed up empty-handed, and she seemed perplexed and just like in shock over it almost. And it got me to thinking about a time years ago when someone picked me up from work, and I was so grateful for it because I had had a long, hard day. And for me, my primary love language is acts of service. And so someone doing something to help me out or lighten my load or ease some stress means the world to me. It means more to me than words of affirmation, than gifts, than all the other languages that I listed. And so I was thinking, if I had arrived after a 10+ hour flight and the love of my life is picking me up, I think I would take getting flowers as like, oh, something else I gotta carry. Like, that's what came to my mind when I saw that episode. And so that just goes to show how you can receive a gesture very differently. Again, I'm not saying that I think that this person, I think her name was Larissa, and I'm not saying that I think that her response was okay. I think it was kind of rude, actually, but that's besides the point. Anyway, I want to give an example. So let's say that we have a couple, Chris and James, and let's say that they have had a lovely dinner. Let's say Chris made this awesome dinner. His partner, James, had a long day at work, and he treated him to this lovely dinner, and James is really appreciating it. And so James, whose love language, primary love language, is acts of service, decides, you know what? I'm gonna go in the kitchen and I'm gonna clean up these dishes. He's not gonna have to do anything else tonight because I really appreciate this dinner and all that he did for me, and this was lovely. And so James goes into the kitchen and he does the dishes, he sweeps the floor, he takes the trash out, he wipes the stove. I mean, it's spick and span. And he's doing all of this as a show of his love and appreciation and affection for Chris, who has created this lovely meal for him. But what he doesn't realize is that Chris is over on the couch getting a little upset as time goes by, okay? And when James does make his way back into the living room, Chris is a little standoffish, right? Why? Well, let's say that Chris's love language, his primary love language, is quality time. And let's say that him and James have not been having a lot of that lately, and he was really craving that. Let's say that 30 minutes felt like an eternity to him because he really was just wanting him to say, scrap the dishes, F the dishes, I don't care. Like, just sit here with me for a little bit after we eat. Like, let's just hold each other, hang out, talk. I'm craving quality time, and I want that. So he's not looking at him being in the kitchen over here doing the dishes as this show of love and affection. Although he appreciates it, it doesn't have as much weight and significance because he's maybe been a little hungry for that quality time. And maybe this is a night that he got home earlier than he normally does. And there could be all kind of factors going on. But I think that's a really good example of how we can fall into disconnecting and missing each other. And if we know what our love language is and what our partners is, we can start to speak their language more and also better appreciate when they are speaking their language to us. Does that make sense? I hope so. Okay. Last thing I want to say. Oh, another thing I want to say. I kind of want to go back to what I was talking about with the flowers and the thing that Larissa said in the 90 Day Fiance episode, because I also want to make it clear that even if you go through uncovering what your primary love language is and what your partner's is, it's so important that you don't take away from this video that I am saying, oh, your partner needs to be a mind reader now, because that is not the case. And that brings me to, it's really important that you're also able to ask for what you need. And something that comes up with a lot of couples that I work with as they're discovering what their love languages are, they sometimes they communicate a lot of distress in that their primary love language is their partner's bottom of the list language, like something that they just don't need. And so an example might be touch and let's say words of affirmation. And so let's say that words of affirmation is not really your thing, like you like it, it's cool, you appreciate it, but like it doesn't really do much for you. And that would be like number 5 on your list. But for your partner, that's number 1. And let's say for you, touch is number 1, and for your partner, touch is at the bottom. And so sometimes it can feel difficult to connect, especially if what your partner's number 1 language is not so easy for you to communicate. Let's say you're not a very verbal person, but your partner is like, I need to hear these things. I need you to verbally affirm me and tell me that you love me and that you appreciate me and that you like that I did X, Y, Z. I need to hear that. That's important to me. That's up here. And for you, that's not a thing. So it might be that much more difficult. I want to talk about how to be able to meet each other in the middle in a way that works for both of you. But I'm not going to tell you today. Tune in 2 weeks to get the second part of this video. It's going to be really awesome, and I'm excited to share with you some things that I've helped couples to navigate, and it can be really fun, actually. So tune in 2 weeks for the continuation of this video, and I will see you then. Make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel if you haven't. I have some upcoming goodies coming up, and I want to make sure that you guys don't miss out on Thirsty Thursdays. I will see you in a couple of weeks.